Good morning, everybody. It's Rosanna from South East London blog. And I'm here today talking to artist Jasmine Pradissitto. Now, Jasmine has created a sculpture at the Horniman Bee Garden, which absorbs pollution. Yes, it absorbs pollution. So I'm very excited to have her on the blog today and interviewing her. Now, the Horniman Bee Garden has been recognised as a haven for multiple bee species, and it's been awarded a Bees Needs Champions Award. So Jasmine, hello, welcome. Very excited to be talking to you about this genius creation. So please tell us a bit more about the Flower Girl.
Good morning, Rosanna. And as a South East Londoner myself, I'm absolutely delighted to be speaking on your blog. So thank you so much for inviting me. Yeah, the Horniman Project has been a bit of a dream project for me. It's the second public art sculpture that I've made. The first one, which is for Euston, is actually going up in 3 weeks' time. Yay! So we're going to have another one. It's been a little bit delayed, but we're going to have another one on the second most polluted road. But the South Circular is known for, obviously, the amount of traffic that it has. And I was creating this work anyway out of a ceramic, sustainably sourced ceramic, which absorbs NOx. Now, NOx is nitrogen dioxide. It's one of the byproducts of combustion. So whether it's from a car or from a factory, or even when you're cooking, we actually create NOx in the home as well.
No, how do you NOx? Is that NO? How do you spell that? That's
NO2, nitrogen dioxide. So 2 lots of oxygen for every nitrogen. But what it does is when you inhale it, it exacerbates breathing difficulties. It kind of can clog up, the airways. So it's not good for breathing, basically. And often when you see a sunset, when you see one of these beautiful sunsets over London and you see the sort of brown layer, that's NOx. So we create a great deal of it from combustion. So this material kind of absorbs it. Well, it does absorb it. So a 3 kilogram sculpture, for example, in an average size room would clean it for about 60 years. So I've been kind of pioneering for the last 4 years using it as a sculpting material because that's not what it's intended for. And I was creating these pieces, and then I love synchronicity. It's amazing how things come together when you least expect. And I was talking to Wes Shaw at the Horniman Museum. They were building a bee garden out of lost and found materials, pallets and things like this. And we kind of figured out, wouldn't it be great to put a sculpture into the bee garden to help the bees find their pollinating flowers? Because NOx affects human beings, but it also affects the tiniest creatures like bees. If there's too much NOx in the air, they cannot find their pollinating flowers. And if you think of 1 in every 3 mouthfuls of food that we eat are provided by bees, that's a big problem. So obviously, I can't clean all of London air, and but as an artist, to be able to use, first of all, it's a real challenge using a material in a way that it's not intended. But secondly, for me, art is about driving awareness. And that it's wonderful. We've been watching people over the last year, and at the moment, obviously the gardens are resting, but spring is just pinging in.
It is.
And it would be lovely. Yeah, it'd be lovely.
How did you settle on the Horniman Gardens? Is it, for the people who don't know where it is, so Horniman Gardens is in Forest Hill, which is South East London. So you're saying that road along there is one of the most polluted in London?
Not that, well, I don't know, but I do know that the South Circular is one of the problem areas. And if you look at, the new emission zones that are being introduced, I think is it October? Anything within the sort of the South Circular, because I can imagine the main arterial roads like the north to south, and obviously the major ones through London, we have a lot of stagnant traffic, with engines running. So I don't know the scientific data as such, but yes, I can imagine it's not, and the museum is sort of very close to the road. Having said that, it has huge gardens and wonderful, trees suck up all sorts of things. So yeah, but it's been a bit of a dream project, and we've seen the number of bees and things that are there. And also I think it's encouraging people to plant, if you just allow your lawn to be 10 centimeters higher than normal, if you plant particular things in your gardens like wild carrots and lavender and things like this, you will attract bees and butterflies. And again, I'm hoping that it will get people to think, actually, I could have a bit more of a wild garden and it would look very beautiful.
Mm-hmm. So how long have you been an artist for?
Oh gosh, ever since I was teeny tiny, but I have been practicing probably as a full-time artist for about somewhere between 15 and 20 years, so a long time.
And what's the piece that you're working on in Euston? Is it a similar sculpture to the Flower Girl?
That's a little bit of a darker piece, and I actually completed it a couple of years ago. But with anything, public art, that sometimes it's going on the side of Camden People's Theatre, which has just been renovated, and that's called Breathe. And ironically, I made it before the Breathe programme was introduced by the Mayor of London. This is what I mean. I kind of look at this and I think it's also synchronous. And it's a figure. I mean, the Flower Girl is a woman, if you like, who is sleeping, and she's wrapped by petals, and she will only open her eyes when the bees and the bugs return. Breathe is much more about the individual lifting their head to take a breath of air. So the idea was to get people off the most polluted road, on their legs, and to get them to walk through Regent's Park. So basically to try and change their routes so that they were, breathing slightly cleaner air.
Oh, that's lovely. I look forward to seeing that. What are your plans for the future? Because obviously as a sculpture that, absorbs pollution is a great idea. I mean, are councils, other businesses or organisations or artists doing that? Why aren't there? First question in my head: why aren't our lampposts made of this material? And I don't understand, because it just makes sense.
Sorry, Rosanna. So the company who made it, Alcitec, have been working with TfL. They're working with various companies. I don't know everything that they're doing on an industrial basis, but they are already looking into this. I'm not a product designer. I'm a fine artist. So for me, it's about creating pieces that say something about the environment, which to me is incredibly important, but also about our connection to our environment and how the past connects with the future. I'm very interested in the gods and the goddesses of the past, because if you think of time, this idea of linear time is very much a Western construct, deadlines and then finishing things, whereas very much in the Eastern world, everything is circular. And if you think of nature, it's circular in time. So this is things repeat, things are cyclical. And when we try and impose linear on cyclical, it doesn't work. And I think this is one of the reasons that society is struggling a little bit with what we've done to the environment. But for me, at the moment, I'm in an exhibition with Gillian Jason Gallery, who are starting to represent me. So they are an amazing gallery in London who work solely with women artists. We have Tracy Emin in there, we have Bridget Riley. It's a real honour to have work alongside them. So I'm working on smaller pieces. I'm working towards a summer exhibition. We have some other things sort of in the offing that I can't really talk too much about, but basically I'm working all the time at the moment. It took, I think, again, sometimes when things like this happen, people go, well, why isn't it everywhere? Why haven't I heard about it? Innovation takes time, and it takes, I used to think that the idea was everything. I now realize that timing is everything. And really for me, although COVID it's been a horrendous year for people, it was also a year in which people started to understand that when they couldn't go inside buildings, they needed the outside world. So we're starting to listen to what's happening in the environment. And this year, of course, England Glasgow is hosting COP26, the climate change conference. And I'm hoping that we will be doing something with them. So it's like all the timing is coming together, and yeah, let's hope that we've learned some of the lessons that kind of were imposed upon us during the pandemic.
Okay. Oh, well, I think that's fantastic. I look forward to hearing about it, and I wish you lots of luck with that. Bit of an couple of other questions I've got for you. What's a good one? What advice would you give to a 20-year-old you? Or no?
Oh wow, I won't swear, but I will know. What I'll say is, whatever you think, whatever it is you're worrying about is pretty much not going to happen. Right, so don't spend time worrying about stuff that really isn't going to happen. And secondly, don't just do the things that you find really interesting, which is actually what I have done. And just know that in the future, the dots will join up. You know, and it sounds so cliche, but try and be true to what it is that you are. I mean, obviously when you're in 20s, you haven't got a clue who you are, or really, you know, I didn't have a clue what I was or what I wanted to do, but I kept following things that I was interested in, and then they all amalgamated and they all came together. And that's the thing, I would say, don't worry about it. Things on the whole that you worry about don't happen, and just try to find out who you are. And if you have a purpose, great, find out what that is. If you haven't, also great. But yeah, it all comes together eventually.
That's great. Thank you. I wish I'd spoken to you when I was 20. And just for a bit of fun, to close up the interview, who would be your ideal fantasy dinner guest?
Oh goodness. Oh yes, I was thinking about this. So I'd have to have Vivienne Westwood, because I love her clothes. Yeah. And she drives a tank, for goodness sake. I've always wanted one. You know, she's a true environmentalist. I'd have to have Oliver Ellison, who I was listening to yesterday, an amazing artist, you know, who did the Sun Project. And from the Sun Project, they have created these tiny little electrical lamps that are throughout the world. I'd have to have Leonardo, just because, God, there isn't anything that, you know, Leonardo da Vinci, there isn't anything he wouldn't speak about. I'd have to have Alexander McQueen, because he was a genius sculptor in fabric. Oh, and I've thought of others, which have just, I can't remember. Who would I have? That's all I can think of off the top of my head.
No, that's great. That's lovely. Thank you, Jasmine. It's been really great to talk to you. I'm very excited about the project. And for anyone watching this, the Flower Girl statue is in the Horniman Bee Garden. I've been up there a few times myself now, and it's beautiful. All the bee structures and statues, and the flowers are coming up now. And the statue is very calm. I found it lovely to look at, and it's set really well in the garden. So thank you for doing that as well. I think it's brilliant.
Well, can I just give a big shout out to Mr. Wesley Shaw, who was the horticulturalist. I did not know what he was going to do with the garden. When I went back to see it, I almost burst into tears because it was so beautiful. So he designed that garden, and it's amazing.
Lovely. Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you so much for your time, and I wish you luck with all of your projects.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.